Hey guys, how's it going? February 21st, 2020. And yeah, we're back. This time let's deal with some more positive stuff for a change. Um, so I was out today and I did get some film of 421 and 422. I call it film. Digital recording, whatever. It's just an old saying, I guess, an old terminology. So recordings of 421 and 422, as well as some of the imagery in the area of some of the industries, I should say. And, well, only one, I think. Actually, I only dealt with one of the industries, but um, managed to get it at Fort Erie breaking up and then having NS come over and do its interchange. So I still have to go through that film to try and get an idea as to the ratio of what goes to NS and what goes to CSX, and like really dive into detail the car types and see if I can at least get a waybill set. I think I'm going to keep on tweaking it, but until that time, until I get to go through the footage that I got, and I'll actually post it once I process it because I want to process it and get it on the big screen and be able to go car by car and find out what happened. Now there was some oddities tonight too because there was actually there's a lot of oddities actually going on with the blockades that's taking place. Um, you've probably heard of out in eastern Canada. They're protesting a pipeline happening out west, and the natives are restless. But yeah, that's basically shut down any of CN's freights and passenger services heading east out of Ontario. So basically anything going out to the east coast, which includes some of the intermodal stuff that's coming out that's normally on 421. So there's a lot of weird things going on, and I noticed there was some storage tonight. So tonight might not be the best example, but at least it's something. If anything, it might give me a good idea what comes out from the west or Toronto area, as opposed to the east coast. But still, um, let's let's take a look at. I'm gonna go through, and I'm gonna take a look at the southeast. Quincy had mentioned that he thought that Waycross would be more applicable to what I'm doing. I'm going to take a look at that. I'm not too sure how. I actually, if anything, Sanford might, but I'll take a look at that as well. I have an idea for Sanford sub, believe it or not. But let me go into my pictures, and I will go to. Let's go with. I'm going to go with Waycross for a moment, and see. Do I have Waycross? Or is it called Southeast? Selkirk, San Bernardino. I do not see West Colton. Well, maybe I don't have it. Well, if I don't have it, then I know where to get it. Let's go to our friends at Run8 Depot. I hear they have some pretty good servers too. But, oh really? Did I screw it up? Oh, the depot. Oh, that was Run8 Depot. They're the depot. The depot server. Have they always been that? Did they change their, I gotta see something for a minute here. Okay, the depot server. I always thought it was Run8 Depot for some reason. Yeah. Learned something new. Okay, go into references and we will go into, well, I guess that's not it. Oh, I just clicked on map. I thought it was a pull down menu. CSX, let's take a look at Waycross here. And I'm not going to download the map, I'm just going to take a look at it. I thought I already had this map. I'm surprised. So let's take a look at Waycross for a moment and see what we're dealing with. I don't think I want to deal with a yard like that. That's just too much for my purposes. And I don't think there is any other yard here. No. Waycross itself ain't gonna work. I'm not too sure what he was thinking as far as Waycross. I'm looking at hazmat tank loading. That's I don't see it. So, all right, let's try. Let's go. Let's go with. Take a look at the A line because I got a funny feeling that might actually be doable. So I definitely don't want the double track section. What's interesting is, though, that yard, if it wasn't for the ramps, would actually be very similar, maybe not too similar to Port Robinson. No, I think it's too small actually, and that's too big, I think. 18 tracks, yeah, that's a little too big. What do we got coming out of? So we've got the North TY yard, or TY yard, I guess you call it. Florida East Coast, Norfolk Southern. Stub end yard. Yeah, it's interesting. Of course, you have the NS spawns here, which is possible as well. So there's definitely a connection to NS, and there's definitely a connection to CSX. This can be treated as if this was crossing into Buffalo from Canada, although it's heading north, which is kind of ironic. But yeah, this can be like Frontier Yard in Buffalo, which is CSX, and yeah, because CSX is having problems with their passenger services, they no longer want to own the rights to the Sanford sub, so they're going to sell it off to CN. Because they're tired of dealing with all the passenger stuff going on, and CN's up for it because they like buying stuff, I guess, and so they're gonna use their connection from Tallahassee so that they can run. And I don't know why they would do it, but that's my story so far. Well, so far it's fitting okay. So let's go in a little bit further and see what we've got. So we got the double track section. We're at mile 648. Well, let's deal with what miles we are dealing with here. Approximately. At some point, I have to. So around 640 or so, give or take. Holy crap. Can I just use my arrows? Oh, I can. Very good. That's good, because I'm tired of using the mouse, because sometimes it wants to stick and other times it doesn't. So yeah, Jacksonville Terminal, Sanford Sub, whatever you can call that. The the thing over. You know, the thing over. Anyways, man, this thing's... Come on, give me a break. I don't know if what's with the loss of page 6 here? It does not like me having page 6. There, well, it finally gave it to me. Okay, so pecan yard is a little too small. Oh, come on. Kelly yard's too small. Rand's yard, possibly. Rand's yard's possible. Although we're dealing with a lot of mileage to get to Buffalo. A little bit too much for my liking. So 747. So we're dealing with 120 miles to get to Buffalo, which is not, from Port Robinson, that's just not the case. It's actually only 20 miles. And Fort Erie's a different transfer altogether, so that would work well. This is actually would work much better for Fort Erie, but then again, 100 miles, nah, that ain't gonna work, unfortunately. I don't see how this would work. Taft, yeah, we're getting too far now. Now we're getting into about 150 miles. Taft is probably too small too. And then we got all that industrial stuff. Now I am going to, let me just take a look at the Northeast one time. So I could, oh, let me take a look at BNSF Bakersfield. I hate to do this. I don't have this, so this would be a little bit of a now that is more like the size of a Port Robinson. Except there's no intermodal ramp, but that's okay. Oh, so Fresno. We figure what's coming in right now is the equivalent of about 2 miles. So at least 10,000 feet. Plus you have the stuff that's coming outbound, so that's another 10,000. So you definitely need a capacity of approximately 20,000. Which this would suffice. So that's pretty good. Everything else at this point doesn't look like there's not too much. What mileage are we talking about? We're talking about mile 996 to, well, what else is there here? Yeah, this is interesting. It's only 100 miles. Now, where it gets too much is there's a little too much industry for my liking, but it's not bad. Fair amount of double track, single track, so it's got a variety. Not really much for junctions per se, but that's okay. So it's Hanford. It's not too bad, you know. Okay, that's interesting. Um, Let me go back up to. I want to do Mohawk or Selkirk. Let me take a look at Selkirk for a moment. Okay. I don't think there is another yard. Selkirk's too big, but that's perfect size for a buffalo. I'm not big on the double track. It does not like page 6. Let me go back up to the top again, Amsterdam. Like, is it loading? What the hell is it doing? Oh yeah, it is. No, Northeast isn't going to be it. So I'm only left with. Let me just go back into the. Not sure what that means. I either think Kansas City or CN. Yeah, but I don't like the double track. That's the only thing I don't like about Mohawk. Yeah, not for what I want to run. No, I'm sticking with California. I'm almost certain I'll take a look at Mohawk, but go back into what I have here. Let me take a look at Mohawk. Do I have Mohawk? Yeah, I do. Mohawk is so looking at the yards here. Of course, Mohawk's all double track, which I don't like. Yes, I can cut off some and turn them into single track, but Mohawk or DeWitt's too big. Now there is some potential for the short line stuff, so I'm trying to match my area is what I'm trying to do. I don't have a double track. If it's mainly for the Stanford sub, it's a single track. There's really no double track anymore. The Grimsby sub's double track, but they've removed some of it. So being the Northeast, yeah, it's certainly a lot better, but from a yard perspective, I don't see anything. No. No, I'm gonna have to stick with California, which is fine by me. I'm okay with that. So let's. I think I've settled on. It's gonna be California. LA's not gonna happen. Although I can take a look at it, I don't think there's anything LA. Let me. Oh, is there what is there? Wait a minute. Okay, I'm just thinking about LA now. There is no, there's nothing. LA won't work. So back to Mojave. So I'm already very certain that UP this would represent this yard here would represent Port Robinson pretty good. So what you're dealing with is the capacities are much better. This reminds me a lot of Port Robinson Yard, actually, the size. In fact, if I was to take a look at a comparison to Port Robinson, okay, let me go into, what was I doing? I shouldn't have done that. Lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, okay. I knew I went to, I was going into here for something. So when we go to Port Robinson, we have this yard here. Now mind you, there's not as many yard tracks, but eight yard tracks, and what was empty then? It's usually not that empty. 8 yard tracks and okay, I got screwed up here. I'm looking down. Okay, never mind. Can I measure in this? Measure distance. Okay. $820.67 meters of the longest track. So that's half a mile, which 2,821 feet. (2,821 feet) is the longest. But yet they can somehow bring in 2 miles of train. Now, mind you, they will hold the hot track, and they held a train today. The train that was leaving was all the way out to here. I'll go with about there. Not quite, but so if I was to go to 2,800 feet is the longest siding track. However, when you're talking about, yeah, 3.5 kilometers, so we're talking at approximately 11,482 feet train. That sounds about right. So you need to have, and at the time 422 hadn't left, so this was, or I'm sorry, no, this was that was an approximate length of the train that was going out, so that was 422. 421 was about the same length coming in. So right away you need about 20,000 feet. Now, mind you, this train was holding the hot track, which would be probably up to here. So he was holding up to, he was already, yeah, he was out to here at least. So what had happened was when we first got down, I took some footage today. The caboose was, or the caboose, jeez. The EOT was sitting, I think he was sitting over the crossover. I think he was sitting by the road. So they were only utilizing this track for working whatever, but he was sitting here, and as they were starting to build him and the other guy came in, he would be holding he was already in the hot track when the other guy arrived. And we didn't see the other guy come out until later with his head end. They did a double up move, probably to connect with the tail end portion, and he came in. His engines sat at right here, and this is where they usually do what'll happen at Allenport Road. We were just sitting by the box here taking the film. I was filming on Barron Road. But what had happened was this location here, what they do is they go collect the conductor, go all the way back down the yard, and wherever he's at, and he comes down Allenport here and just he comes onto the head end of his train, and then they were delayed for a little bit before they left, so I'm not too sure. They were building up the air, but then it seemed to take a long time, but we finally got them, so that was pretty cool. So anyways, yeah, so 2,000 feet on the one. It's 2,000 feet on the one track, which isn't too bad. I gotta do measurements again. Oh crap! Never mind. I had already done it, but yeah, crapola. Yeah, never mind that. Never mind that either. Can I get that thing out of here? Measure distance, thank you. Ooh, that's got the feet. Oh good, I changed it to Imperial. That's even better. Okay, so the smallest track is 1,460 feet. So you're looking at an average with 8 tracks, you're looking at 16,000 feet at least, not counting the main, so that's not too bad. So you've got enough room, so you're looking at needing a capacity of, with the mains and everything else, to hold the main, because that's all that happens at Port Robinson. 420, what happens is there's nothing else that comes through here. 421 comes, sorry, yeah, 421 comes, 422 leaves, and then they build the outbound train for Fort Erie. So that's how this Stanford sub works. And it's kind of interesting. Stanford and Sanford sound very similar, so that was tempting. Which isn't too bad now that I think about it. That's it's 8 tracks. I might want to look back at. I may want to look back one more time at Sanford sub again. So we're talking only about 20,000 feet. Yeah. But I don't know what Google means, other than what I'm in. Okay. So anyways, I'll get rid of that. That works. That's fine. Oh, so let me go back to not Run8 servers. Let's take a look at the maps again. I'm still thinking about Sanford sub. So let me take a look at A line. I'm not doing the whole A line anyways. I'm not doing the whole of any of these. But let me take a look at A line, because that's still, there's a part of that I kind of like. If I can get the if I can figure out how I want to do it. So not Duval. That would work as a Buffalo type, or CSX, whatever. Okay. So there's your 8 tracks right there. Rand's Yard works very well for Port Robinson. And then you got, yeah, this actually works very well for Port Robinson. Of course, Port Robinson also has an interesting industry, but it doesn't quite have that, so I'm not too sure if I want to do that or not, but it's a possibility. I don't have to have a complex industry. What else? Oh yeah, there's other stuff that goes the other way, but So if I was to run the trains to there, 765, how many miles are we talking about to get to Moncrief? Still a long ways. 765. That's 130 miles. That's my only concern. Is that's a long way to run to get down there. Let me see if I can find something closer. Or I go the other way. That's the other option. I could go the other way. Okay. Whoa, 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 whoa. Hold on. Hold the phone. Well, that's Georgia Pacific. Okay. Pecan Yard. Pecan's too small. Although there's a 10,000 foot siding, that's not too bad. Somewhat tempting. Actually, now that I look at that, that's possible. Because, and the reason why I say that's possible, although it's not really like Port Robinson, it does have the industry that comes out of it. Pecan itself is a 10,000 foot siding that can hold a train. Can hold quite a bit, actually. Keep in mind, this is just 2 trains going the one way and 2 trains going the other. That's all there is. 421 goes one way, 422 comes the other. Then the other, then it builds another train overnight. They work the yard. So I'm not too sure I like the idea of 4 tracks, but for our purposes, and there's a 1,345 foot stub, for our purposes that would work okay. 694.1 at Rice Creek, that would allow me to play around at, so I got Pecan, 695.4. Yeah, that's doable. What's this Comfort Road? 695 point. Ugh. Of course, they always have to stick something in there. I mean that doesn't matter. I can split the train. That's not exactly ideal, but it's something. Okay. So how far are we away? So we're about 695 up to 695 up to, what are we here for mileage? Well, that's a little more feasible. It's 50 miles. It's probably a little bit more than what it should be, but it's feasible. I think we're actually dealing more like 30 miles, but I can live with that. That's well within the realm of possibility now. Where would I do Fort Erie? There's the only one I can think of, the Fort Erie. Is that yard right there. And that yard is not ideal. It's a yard, but I mean trains, so what would happen is Fort Erie Yard, the train that comes from Port Robinson, I forget the number, it's a 500 series. He comes in and he basically sets off cars for NS. NS is waiting. NS goes back to theirs. He leaves cars here, and then he basically heads off and then does his thing. If that makes any sense. So yeah, that's entirely that's feasible. I really think it is feasible. And then what happens in here is this isn't ideal because Fort Erie can enter both ways. It's not a stub end yard, but I mean it'll do. Because there's no real other candidate. I don't know what number 6 is. Am I here? No, that's where I was already at. Okay, that's page 6. Okay. Then from the Toronto bound, we're dealing with at least 40 miles from here. Where are we at here? 694. Another 40 miles just to get to Hamilton, which will put it around 730. Well, I could really go crazy here. If I really wanted to, I could... Yeah, this could represent an Aldershot. Although, I don't know if I want to simulate that much. Because once you get outside of here, you're getting close to the double track of Orlando. And at some point I'd want to spawn something. Okay. So I'm not worried about this section. That can stay part of the CSX system. What I'm looking at doing is going back with my original idea of having CN have rights up to but not including Duke's Connection. So at this point, once you get into here, you're getting into you're getting into CSX territory, because then they want to deal with their own intermodal and all that other stuff and do whatever. No, actually no, forget I said that, because this is Fort Erie. This is still part of CN. So yeah, it's not going to be ideal. It's not going to be perfect, but it's something. I think it could work. Now, do I want to do it? I'm not sure. I got to think about that one. And I can spawn a train anywhere. I don't have to worry about it so much. Rands is really sticking out like a sore thumb at me right now. Even now, I'm looking at Taft too, and now suddenly I'm looking at Taft, and I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. That has, because I can knock this thing the other way around too. Taft has about 17,000 feet of track, which is very similar to Port Robinson. In fact, the number of tracks makes it ideal. Of course, there's all kinds of other craft going on in Taft, but that's okay. And I'm not worried about all the other industries and everything else. In that case, what I would do there, what would I do? Well, there's a lot of things I could do. Number one, when I'm dealing with Trillium, which is the short line, or the connection to the short line, I could play around there. Actually, you know, suddenly this is looking, I never thought of it this way. So I have Taft. If I was to treat that as a Port Robinson-like system, what would I do going the other way? Would I actually bring, I think I would bring everything out of Toronto or whatever. I would spawn it right here and just bring it in, which is a little crazy because that's not I kind of wanted to have a little bit more of a run, so I'm not too sure about that. I'm perplexed about that one, but the yard's nice. I don't think I'm going to get a perfect fit, put it that way, which is fine. The fact that there's an industrial park, there's all kinds of things. This is, now I can turn it on its head again and have this pointing south towards Buffalo. The problem is, what's my Fort Erie? I don't really have one. That's it. This would have to be my Fort Erie. If that's the case, then what do? There really isn't. There's this would have been a nice southern yard, but yeah, not quite. There's a lot of others. This would be a fine southern yard. There's a lot of candidates for that. Rand's yard's a little too big to be a southern yard, but there's possibilities there. I mean, I'm looking at it and I'm really thinking that there's a lot of potential there. So I'm not sure. I'm kind of torn. I know I'm going to go one way or another, and I still have some data to go through. So I have to go through the data first, but I don't think I'm ready to commit just yet. And then, yeah, going the other way, you're dealing mainly with double track. Not much to report, although if I was to run, I was going to say if I was to run the one way, I still kind of like this, the idea of being my Buffalo and then bringing, you know, that could be my Fort Erie, and then you start getting too long. That's the problem. The trains get too long because they, what happens is, so the train that leaves, I'll give you an example. I'm not too concerned about the train so much coming from Toronto, the 421, 422 thing. Although they would pass each other. They usually do pass each other on the Grimsby sub. And then they combine, they actually, once they get to the Grimsby sub, they would combine with commuter service, Amtrak. They would combine with even more traffic once you got up towards past Hamilton. Because once you get past the Dundas sub, then you start getting into the other freight traffic. You get into all kinds of crap. So there's room for expansion, and I like the idea of the room for expansion bit. So I'll have to come back on this, probably not in a YouTube video. Let me go back one more time. And for those wondering what Southern Yard is and all this other stuff, I did this the other night. There we go. So, again, can I kill that damn thing? Yeah, whatever. Doesn't matter. I got a few things here. All these points. So yeah, Port Robinson, Fort Erie's down here. I was here tonight actually. I picked my buddy up in Welland and we headed over there and went to the International Bridgey thingamajiggy. This used to be a much bigger yard, but yeah, I was watching. So they got a few tracks here, and then they got a smaller yard here. quite long actually, but it's able to deal with the NS interchange pretty good. And then of course over here you got Buffalo, and from there it goes on to around Chitawaka. Here's Frontier here. So you got Frontier Yard, Buffalo, everything crosses, goes that way, boom. CSX goes that way, NS comes down to, actually NS comes down to here. Not there. Is that NS's yard? I don't know. I thought that was NS's yard. I think it is. I don't know. I know NS runs down here, but whatever runs where. But anyways, I'm not too as familiar. I'm a little bit familiar, but not as familiar. So yeah, everything that you're seeing in the stuff that I covered recently, this is the Dundas sub, goes that way. Runs into Bayview Junction, which is right at the end of this little harbor here, at the Royal Botanical Gardens. That is Bayview Junction, right here. Wait a minute, is it? Yes, it is. Okay, so Bayview Junction is here, double track main line. This is the Dundas sub. So the Dundas sub comes into here, connects into the Oakville sub. The Oakville sub goes through here. This is called the cow path. Well, there's two things. You have the cow path, which is part of the Y of Bayview Junction. This isn't this used to be used by 330, 331, which would head off to Sarnia, Port Huron, Michigan, and go to Sarnia Yard, Port Huron, Michigan. That service has been removed for now, as of about a month ago. So that doesn't go down there. At one time, Norfolk Southern ran a train, an NS 327, 328 down there as well. But that was discontinued as well. So NS doesn't run. The only NS that runs in is to Fort Erie now, into that part. But there's so you got your Hamilton Yard here. All the industrial zones, the ones you can get to and the ones you can't. And TSW, I'm not going to start on that again. Breathe. But yeah, so let me just take a look at California one more time, and then I might wrap it up. I'll just take a look at the chat real quick. Oh, yeah, 421. 421 used to be mainly manifest, some intermodal recently. So what happened was CSX and CN made an agreement to actually start transporting a little bit of intermodal. They were going to start their own trains. They've done that in the past with a train called 154 and 155, but it never got... I remember some of the intermodal trains used to be 1 car long. CN does have an intermodal train 148, 149 that runs the Dundas through the Oakville and up the Halton sub-corridor. But that is its main connection. So what happens is Aldershot, which is on the Oakville sub, 422 and 421 work it, as does 148 and 149. 148 and 149 never used to work Aldershot. It used to be a straight shot from Brampton Intermodal Terminal, just in the outer-lying regions of the Greater Toronto area. So that's Toronto's intermodal hub. It used to run intermodal service to Chicago, I believe. Did it run through Chicago? I think so. Yeah, it ran through Sarnia and then found its way to Chicago, I believe. So 148, 149 went through there, and it used to be a straight shot. They didn't stop, but now they stop at... The reason why they stop at Aldershot is the connection with the intermodal, what little intermodal there is on 421, 422. It's usually not much, so it's fairly short stop, anyways. I didn't see Satsuma, but cut them off at Satsuma, then run them up to Pecan. Satsuma. I didn't even notice Satsuma. The hell's Satsuma? Is that a yard? I don't remember seeing a yard in Satsuma. Did I miss something? Yeah, I don't know. I'll try to remember that name, Satsuma. That doesn't sound familiar. It sounds familiar, but I don't know what Satsuma is. Is that Rands? I don't know. Anyways, let me take a quick look at California again. Whew. Crap, I gotta turn my heater off, or else my bedroom's gonna be way too hot. I'll do that in a minute. Back to Mojave. Okay. Of course, there's all kinds of stuff here. The speeds are totally different here, obviously. But, don't have as many intermediate yards. You do and you don't. If I was to create that as my Port Robinson, now I'm not sure about this. I'm actually still thinking of the South. Originally, this was a no-brainer for me to do California, but it's got me thinking. Bakersfield can certainly be my. Of course, I have more track than what I need in UP Bakersfield, so that's interesting. What else can I use? Mojave's an interesting one. Ugh. Okay, now it gets really interesting. That's only 7 tracks, but the longest is. I hate working Mojave because of the hill, but Mojave would work. Actually, this works perfect for Port Robinson. I just realized that Oak Creek. I have the Oak Creek extension. And although it's a cement plant, they certainly have hoppers and the one industry, which is oxyvinyls. And we have a junction here, which is okay. So how would I do this one? That is the question. So I've got a couple to consider here. Suddenly Mojave is got my attention. Now I do not have the Lone Pine branch, nor do I want it. But if I was to run this junction here, okay. Barstow can be my Buffalo. So we're at BNSF 814.9. $814. Hang on a second here. 814. Yeah, that's not bad. 70 miles, it's pushing it, but I think I can live with that. Now what becomes my Fort Erie? Possibly Edwards. But I think I would go further than that. So if I go about 20 miles across the desert, that takes me to about 8:30. Or no, it doesn't. It takes me to 794. Which actually sits me right at Edwards. Boron's another candidate for Fort Erie. Because if I was to do boron, yeah. Yeah, I'm starting to like this now. Okay. I wouldn't use borax, but I'm dealing with NS would bring theirs over. I'm just not too sure I got enough track at boron for the interchange or not. Although I can actually use the North American spur as well to some extent, because what I can do is I can work here, shove the NS down the North American spur, which would be at the head end of the train, continue to Barstow. NS would be standing by. They would have our cut somewhere in here, like maybe the siding or whatever. They can come around here. They just tie up and they go. That's actually that operation works pretty good. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm not worried about Fort Erie as much as I'm trying to simulate Port Robinson. Port Robinson's the key. And of course I would like to be able to do the kicking and all that other wonderful stuff, but it's not the end of the world. Then you got Trillium. This is a good this is actually a good candidate for Trillium. And the reason why I say that is because we have the industries that would work really well for that. Page 10. I mean, the helpers would work ass backwards because in reality it goes the other way, but that's okay. The escarpment, the Niagara escarpment, the helpers come in this way actually usually, and then it would go. But I would actually need the helpers going up if I was to spawn my trains, say in I guess it would be. Wow, I'd be totally double tracked, wouldn't I? That's the only thing I don't like, is that I would be double tracked for. It's not the end of the world. I don't care. Actually, no, I would be double tracked for some time, anyways. Not really, but yeah. Like I said, you got to give and take. So there's gonna be double track for a long ways. But there is on the Grimsby sub up to there's a good 15-mile section, but mind you, this is quite a bit more. It's kind of ass backwards in comparison. I wouldn't run this whole thing. There's, I mean, I could in theory, but I don't really want to. But that's a possibility. I was originally going to run just a summit and start spawning trains at summit going down. But no, I don't have to worry about industries or anything like that on the hill. You know, I know monoliths there and all that other stuff, and you know, there's other things I can play with. This works really well as a local operation. So have the local trains would come out here, and then I would have the other local play over here. This could be a good. I don't know where CP would make their interchange. Oh, I know where. I figured out where. Hang on. Page 10. Okay. Yeah, but they would make their interchange. I don't know. Well, it doesn't matter. I can always. I was thinking that I could run. I could run. I could run through Vincent and then do it that way. Have CP come down here and then come on to. Yeah, it's crazy. I'll have to think about that, but Mojave is seeming more like a possibility. And then when you're talking both, you know, NS, it's going to look awfully weird in the desert, but that's okay. And I don't have, you know, I could turn around and use other services too. You know, I could wind up using PNSF and UP, and then trying to figure out something else there. But the idea is I'm trying to simulate the operations of my area and how I want to run something similar. That's the whole idea. So that's why I'm doing it. But anyways, yeah, I'm liking this. So I'm gonna probably investigate. I'm gonna probably look at this a little bit more on my own. I'm certainly not lost interest by no means in this whatsoever. I just want to make sure it's right. I gotta go through some of the video too. I want to. Basically, we're dealing with, you know, like 10,000 foot trains that are coming in, and then they have to be broken up, and they're not. You know, they take a little bit of switching, which is cool. And yeah, I'll have to wait and see. I don't know if I'm going to do Lone Pine, but anyways. So yeah, I'm going to wind down for the evening. So yeah, we're getting a little bit closer, but we're not quite there yet. I'm thinking it's going to take me another week to just go through the data and really decide. But for now, you know, that's just some of the things you can do. Let me see here. Yeah, Cajon. I'm not big on the double track for the Cajon sub. Yeah, I think they fixed that signal recently. I know what you're talking about, but I think they did fix that. I'm not worried about that. My biggest concern of Mojave is the grade. I hate switching that grade. I hate working the yard in that grade. I like kicking. I prefer to kick. There's not that big of a drill either. So you're dealing with a lot of double up moves going up the hill, coming back down. So I'm not that fond of it. I would probably wind up wanting to. Actually, no, I'd work at the other end anyways, so that wouldn't matter. So yeah, I'll work from the other end. I'll do it. I'll do it different. So I'll work from. It's a little bit calmer at the other end, so work through the junction or whatever, and that would be fine. Um, doesn't matter. I mean, it would be the only thing running anyways. So work up to the junction, and yeah, that's definitely feasible. So I'm okay with that. And the only thing I don't like about it is that the trains that I wanted to run, or at least I don't necessarily need to run them, but there's really no lack of meets. They're just passing each other. There's too much double track going the one way. Um, what happens is Port Robinson to Niagara Falls is all single track. There's no sidings. So there's a good 10-mile section. And then there's double track for, well, yeah, that's the thing. So there's a single track section, but then there's double track until there's double track for 15 or 18 miles, and then it goes single for a bit, then it goes double. So it's actually, yeah, it's not that bad. It's give or take. I think it would work fine. So yeah, I think I like it. Um, as for the reasoning as far as why the hell CN playing in the desert or anything like that, I'm not too worried about it. Um, I could rename it to Port Robinson. That wouldn't make much sense, but or I could just I could use BNSF and UP, and somehow it's just this whole transcon thing. It's there's too much traffic for someone who wants to do a small operation. I don't want to sit there and dispatch. If I want to run, I don't want to dispatch. If I want to dispatch, I don't want to run. So there's too much operation going on. You need an AI dispatcher, you need much more intelligent AI that can actually do switching and working the freight. That's what we're lacking in Run8 right now. Either that or just some smaller regions that do not require as much work. And yeah, I could do Lone Pine. The problem with Lone Pine is I don't think Lone Pine. I mean, Lone Pine could work. Maybe it will. Maybe I have to look into Lone Pine, but because Scott was doing that for a while, so maybe Lone Pine would actually work. Um, it didn't seem like it would work for me. I like to have that yard there, the connections, the interchanges. I'm not too worried about the exact order, as long as they have them, and then I can figure it out from there. As long as I'm separating the train, that's the whole idea of 421, 422 coming in and out of Port Robinson. Is the whole purpose of it is to separate the train into the cut for CSX, the cut for NS, the cut for the locals, Trillium, Canadian Pacific. So they all work that yard there to figure it out. There's enough room and there's enough tracks, I think, in Mojave to do it. I mean, I'm short 2 tracks, but I still have some room. And in fact, they actually use the industrial spur to store cars when needed. So I think we'll be fine with that. Good as well done. Yeah, okay. Anyways, I'm ending it for tonight. So I'm not too sure when I'm going to be back on. It's going to take some processing. Maybe the next videos that might come up on my channel will be some of the video that I took this evening, if I process that tomorrow possibly, but we'll see. Depends what I'm up to. I might take a break too. Just do something. I have actually haven't done anything other than trains this whole weekend for the most part. So Yeah, I might take a break, but we'll see. Anyways, that's all for now, guys. And yeah, we'll see you down the road or whatever, and talk to you later. Take care.